Republic Commando was released in February of 2005. It received mostly positive reviews. It was meant to tie in with Revenge of the Sith, which was released later that year. You play as Boss, the leader of a commando squad during the Clone Wars, a period between episodes 2 and 3 in the Star Wars saga. This was a period of time in which you could really just write whatever you wanted about the Clone Wars, and as long as you mentioned the Jedi, it was canon. The game has 3 main chapters that you go through: Geonosis at the beginning of the war, an abandoned Republic cruiser during the midpoint of the war, and the planet Kashyyyk at the end of the war. Accompanying you on these missions are your squad mates / brothers, Scorch, Fixer, and Sev. Republic Commando builds its entire gameplay loop around your command of the squad. However, it uses control of the squad to enhance its narrative. The 2 ways you control the squad are either by squad commands or position commands. Squad controls encompass 4 commands: group up, cancel maneuver, secure position, and search and destroy. All of these are incredibly responsive, and the squad does a good job of actually listening to your commands. They'll even get agitated if you command them too many times within a short period of time.
Formation. Battle fatigued, sir.
Positioning commands, on the other hand, is Republic Commando's main gameplay loop. Certain objects in the game will be interactable. Some are door controls for hacking, turrets, explosive barrels, demo charges, breach maneuvers, etc. Most you encounter, however, will be chest-high walls positioned at key points throughout the level. If you command a squad member to that position, they will enact the task that appears on the cover. This means you can command your squad to take sniper, heavy ordnance, and grenade throwing positions. You yourself cannot take these positions, but are able to switch to these weapons freely due to the modular nature of your primary, the DC-17. Other mechanics like mines, terminals, and explosives can be done by the player as well as the squad members.
However, the player usually isn't really incentivized to do these actions on their own because... Okay, well, would you rather do this?
Good, now use the demo charge to clear the path.
Or stare at the screen like this for 10 seconds?
This is an important decision by the game, because while you are the leader of this squad, you aren't stronger than them by any means. They are just as capable as you are at doing tasks. You aren't better than them, you're just the one giving the orders. This isn't the only way the Republic Commando equalizes the player's ability to the rest of the squad. Another factor that drives this relationship home is how hit points are done in the game. You don't actually possess a significant amount more health than your teammates. In fact, you can go down pretty easily if you're not careful on the harder difficulties. However, the game doesn't end if you get knocked out. When you go down, you're presented with 3 options: maintain formation, revive yourself, or go back to the nearest checkpoint. When a squad mate loses all their health, they are incapacitated and need to be revived by another commando. This causes the player to view the commando's health not as separate entities, but rather as a larger part of the player's own health pool. The game isn't about you as boss feeling empowered. Its empowerment comes from you as a squad working together to overcome obstacles you couldn't do on your own. If boss had more health than his teammates, then it would incentivize the player to charge forward without backup and would cause the player to ignore squad mechanics. This may seem obvious from the outset, but it's important to realize that subconsciously, without even needing a strong narrative reason, you care about the squad mates because you are in some way playing as those squad mates. They're an extension of your control. The squad command-based gameplay thus makes it so you're invested in the well-being of your fellow squad mates, and when one member is missing, the amount of options available to you rapidly diminish, making the game that much harder. By attaching the characters of the narrative to the moment-to-moment gameplay, it allows both halves to flourish. It's important to understand the base mechanics of Republic Commando, because the best moments come from when the game intentionally subverts these mechanics. There are 3 points in the game in which you are separated from your squad to accomplish objectives. The first time this happens is the beginning of the final act of the Geonosis missions. After a tough boss fight, which requires you to have complete command over your squad, you're forced to split up. This section starts with you entering a Super Battle Droid production area. Super Battle Droids usually are pretty easy to take down, but that's only when you have your squad with you. Now you're alone, stuck in a room with 20 of them. They're asleep, but it doesn't change the fact that the game has put you in a tense situation by recontextualizing mechanics that the player has already become familiar with. Not only that, but the player has to fight a few of the Super Battle Droids on their own, and it takes a lot of your resources in order to do it. Typically with Super Battle Droids, you want to use grenades to deal a majority of the damage done to them, or use grenades to inflict certain status effects in order to make it easier to do damage to them. In this section, only a few of the sleeping droids will actually wake up to attack you. However, if you use a grenade and an inactive enemy is within the radius of said grenade, they'll start attacking you. The lesson here is that when you're alone, it's better to simply run rather than directly engage because you don't have the advantage of working in a unit. This difference in strength is especially highlighted because of how the aforementioned boss fight required you to have complete mastery of squad mechanics. This section is pretty short. You get reunited with the squad quickly and eventually escape the ship. The core ship, however, foreshadows the next level's much more isolated nature. At this point in the game, you've become familiar with the other members of your team. The mission starts as pretty normal. The brass are sending you and the boys on a mission to investigate a Republic cruiser declared missing, but has reappeared on the Outer Rim. Prosecutor starts very normal, save for the fact that you have been split up from their squad. But then this happens.
As squad leader, you may also be called upon to assist your squad mates with their orders. 07 is tasked with retrieving the sensor logs from the starboard data core. Delta 40 will hit the port core for the manifests.
Weird. So now you're cut off from command and alone on a ghost ship. You radio your squad mates and they say they can't contact command either. But Scorch cracks a joke like usual.
6-2 reporting. Nothing but Minox, sir. It's disgraceful.
And everything seems like it's back to normal. You have to hack a terminal to open a missile silo door. This is smart because it really nails home the idea to the player that they are alone without backup. Forcing the player to do an action they normally command someone else to do helps ground the player in their isolation. The previously isolated section on Geonosis also had the player performing tasks alone, but by having it be the very first action you take, it sets the tone perfectly for how the rest of the level is going to unfold. The narrative doesn't waste any time ratcheting the tension either.
This is 6-2. I'm getting some interference on my visor. Wait, now it's gone. Strange. 6-2 again. I'm getting that static again. Stronger this time. I can hardly see. Wait, what the?
6-2. Delta 6-2, can you hear me? Report.
Get off me, you frowning bag of bolts!
6-2.
The choice to have Scorch be the first squad mate cut off from boss, not only as a controllable character, but a voice on the radio, removes any sort of levity that would be added by his more sarcastic nature.
Fire in the hole!
Oh, so that's how it opens.
Hey, you're a commando. Thank goodness.
What happened here?
I'm not sure. I was scanning the maintenance corridors when I heard blaster fire. By the time I got to where the noise was, everyone was dead.
So you came to the torpedo bay to hide?
No, sir. I was trying to launch a torpedo and alert the Republic. But you're here now, so no need for that, eh?
Look
Thanks
out!
for the...
So the game has really dipped into some alien-inspired territory, asking the potent philosophical question, what if facehuggers were robots? I love these things. They're such a great enemy specifically because of how they ground you in the environment of the game. It's one thing for an enemy to shoot you. It's a whole other beast when it's literally drilling into your face. This is how you do immersion in a shooter. The Prosecutor does a great job in executing the concept of taking power away from the player and slowly returning it, down to presentation, narrative, and introduction of new enemy types. The choice to strip the player of their squad mates works well because by caring about getting our squad mate back for a gameplay reason, it in turn persuades the player to be more interested in the narrative happening before them. When creating games, while we should strive to make a narrative interesting and complex from a writing perspective, ignoring the moment-to-moment gameplay will assuredly lead to the player losing interest in one over the other. Republic Commando isn't a gripping narrative that meditates on the nature of man and war. It's a squad shooter from 2004. The narrative isn't directly at odds with the gameplay, however. In fact, the narrative is enriched by the gameplay. Creators of fiction are always looking for ways to get their audiences to care about the characters. Traditional media like film or TV can demonstrate a character's personality to the audience via showing their actions rather than expositing information at the audience. For the sake of argument, let's say you're watching a TV show and you meet a character named Bill. Bill's nice. His introductory scene is him fixing the roof of a schoolhouse, and he tosses a frisbee back to some kids who lob it on the roof by accident. So we know through Bill's actions that he's a good person because it was shown to us. But in a game, if you were to have Bill do the same actions, it would be harder for the player to establish a relationship with an NPC because Bill has not interacted with the player via gameplay. It's definitely possible to create compelling, well-written characters in games without them having an inherent impact on the player's gameplay. However, your NPCs need to be a compelling part of the moment-to-moment gameplay if you want your players to be invested in them. And if you want an example of how that works, okay. I picked this little frog dude when I was, let's see, can the camera focus on him? I picked this little frog dude when I was like 5 years old, named him Leafy or Toad or something like that. I don't know. I was really into the Frog and Toad books as a kid. Yeah, named him something like that. And now every time I see fan art of this little dude or see him pop up in official media, a little bit of serotonin goes off in my brain. So that's the power of having NPCs that have a direct gameplay benefit to your player.
and how long that connection can really last for.
The gameplay connection a player experiences with these NPCs is what forms their relationship, not knowledge of an NPC's personality. NPC allies need to provide some benefit to your player if you want them to feel like using them is more of an asset than a downgrade. This is how Republic Commando builds the player's interest in the squad. By allowing the player to control the squad easily and placing the squad at the same level as the player, Republic Commando causes the players to value the squad mates as individual members, the balancing of health tying back to the narrative really well. The game does such a great job establishing the dire mood of the prosecutor. You get a hint that there's still something wrong with the ship, but before you can investigate, you need to open a door. So remember earlier when I said that the terminal and the missile silo was important? This is why. Because the second you go to hack this second terminal, 3 scavenger droids appear and attack you. The first terminal is meant to make you feel confident. Even if you're separated from the squad, you can still accomplish your goals. By having the player be attacked immediately, it reinforces the dire mood of the prosecutor and just how alone and unsafe you truly are. The player's forced isolation and the prosecutor's constant prodding of you the second things calm down to elicit tension and fear is what makes this section so memorable. The game could have easily just put no locked door there and have you proceed to the next loading area. This is just one of the earlier examples of the prosecutor's commitment to ensuring you don't feel safe or in control during its opening act, and throughout the rest of the level. This whole opening level is a whirlwind, ripping any sense of safety you could have. Want to rendezvous with Sev? Just kidding. He's going to get attacked by one of those facehugger robots. Then he's going to get jumped by a lizard man. Then you're going to get jumped by 4 lizard men. And then you're going to watch one of those lizard men execute a fellow soldier point blank with a shotgun. So it's safe to say, things aren't exactly going to plan. You eventually make your way down to the terminal where Sev was, only to find him missing in action. Same as Scorch. Now before we continue, I think it's important to understand why the game devs had Scorch and Sev be the commandos required rescuing. Scorch and Sev are the 2 commandos that most players will have either an interest in or at the very least be more aware of their absence than fixers. Scorch and Sev have both incredibly strong personalities, one a wisecracking demo man, the other a sociopathic sniper.
Scorch, better than a jungle hunt. Hiding in the bush, putting a plasma bolt through a hostile's cranium. Makes me feel alive.
Okay, now 07's giving me the creeps.
Having Scorch and Sev be the 2 commandos that go missing in action for this section is a really smart design choice. But with the absence of the 2 of them and the absence of the 2 strongest personalities, it makes the tension elevate more. First, because you don't have your friend who's constantly cracking jokes anymore, and secondly, because the resident cool guy sniper badass Mick whatever isn't there and got taken out, and it leaves you with the feeling of, well, if Sev got taken out, then what chance do I really stand against these guys?
Their introductions to you also reflect this idea pretty well.
Delta Lead, Squad Mate 6-2 is in your vicinity. You should be coming up on him shortly. Squad Mate 07 is now in your vicinity and remaining covert.
If the game stopped being scary at this point, it would be fine. It would at the very least have a strong opener, but it doesn't. There are sections in the ship where you'll encounter clone troopers fighting off invading Trandoshans. If you're not quick enough, the enemies will hack the turrets in the section and murder your comrades. It's a simple design choice, but placing the choice in the player's hands, it allows for dynamic interaction. If you're quick, you get to a satisfaction at finally being able to help someone survive this mess, and if you don't, it only contributes that much more to the sort of environment you're stuck in, your own machines turned against you. I love that the game keeps reminding you that you are not in control of this scenario. The missions in the previous Geonosis section were fun and exciting, but you never feel like the battle isn't going your way, well, because we've already seen the conclusion of the Battle of Geonosis in the movies. On the Prosecutor, every battle against the Trandoshans feels tense because of that knowledge that if you mess up, there's no one coming to save you. Not only that, but Trandoshans actively ambush you. I don't mean like going into a room and being surprised when you see enemies there. I mean they'll literally hide in garbage like the stinky little piss boys they are just to scare you. They'll throw grenades down vents. They're just really annoying. This is what I mean when I say that a Prosecutor elicits fear in this solo section. The player is constantly harassed by enemies in a way that puts them on edge. This is such a good inversion on the mechanics that had been previously established by the rest of the game. The solo section eventually ends with you fighting a new enemy type, the Heavy Merc. Also, this is an introduction.
Republic Commando, we sure could use your help, sir. Die, you cold-blooded
You meet with Fixer, the calmest, most well-adjusted member of your squad. A great design choice to help the player get reaccustomed to squad mechanics, and it helps ease the player back by having a calm voice talking to your character, as opposed to Scorch and Sev, who are very bold characters. You progress through the ship and find Sev. After a quick battle, you've got your resident psychopath back. You go down to the detention block, find Scorch, and the band's back together. He cracks a joke.
Did you get the data?
Yeah, they searched me, but I hid the data pretty well.
Where exactly?
You don't want to know.
Everything feels like it's back to normal. I can't really say much about the fight to the bridge. It's been revealed at this point that the Trandoshans have brought some battle droids from the Separatists in order to recapture the ship. This section is intentionally made to make you feel like things are getting back to normal and everything is going to be okay. When you breach the door to the bridge, you feel like you and the squad are back at 100%. The gameplay is less tense atmosphere and more like how it was on Geonosis. It's very much gone back to being an action shooter. You re-establish contact with command and are told that you need to destroy a Trandoshan headquarters ship in the hangar. Great, you've got orders and your squad back together. So what could go wrong?
Wait, do you hear that?
Sounds like a door breach.
Now you're being attacked by Trandoshan super commandos. These enemies also burst in through vents and rappel down from the ceiling to ambush you. Despite you and the squad being back together, you're still not fully in control of the situation aboard the ship.
These guys can hide anywhere.
Let's keep it slow and careful.
This tension is amplified even further when you and the squad get stuck in the detention block again, the elevator destroyed with no way out. Luckily, it's not impossible to get out of the block. Command tells you to hack 3 terminals, and the detention block lockdown will kick in, pacifying any sort of rebellion that could occur if prisoners revolted.
Squad, poison gas. Secure helmets.
Oh, that was useful.
So now you can finally leave the detention block after enabling the pacification system, which is just mustard gas. That pacifies people by murdering them. Okay, I know the Republic doesn't exactly have the best track record with treating prisoners of war humanely, but even this kind of seems excessive by their standards. What do Trandoshans even do for work anyway?
I'm reading a slaver ship in Hangar A. Have you run into any Trandoshans? The Trandoshans have been more concerned with acquiring Wookiee pelts than taking sides in this war.
Yeah, I don't have any sympathy for these guys. Still a reprehensible war crime. At least it's a war crime that's happening to someone that deserves it. Command radios you and tells you that there's a garbage chute you can use to escape the detention block.
Where are we?
Changing visor mode.
What the? You've got to be kidding.
All right, this is getting serious.
Get out of there, squad. The Trandoshans.
You're still not in control of the situation, and you've still got lizards to kill. You get down to the hangar, kill the Trandoshans, you get a cool new weapon, and then you finally get to blow up the Trandoshan ship. Republic Commando has done a great job of perfectly pacing, taking power away from the player, and then slowly returning it so that it creates a satisfying gameplay / narrative experience, and you can finally get off.
I see it. A Trade Federation battleship.
Yeah, not even you can see into hyperspace, Sev.
No, it's on the edge of the system. Take a look.
Oh, blast.
So, any sort of catharsis the player could have had from this moment is immediately ripped away by the arrival of this capital ship. You've finally taken your home back from the invaders, but now there's an army of robots at your doorstep, and there's 4 of you. So you're kind of fucked. But you're not just going to give up. The commander radios for backup, and you gotta book it to the next hangar to stop the invasion. The game's pacing in this final part is really, really fucking cool. I really like this part. This whole mad dash through the hangars to stop the invading robots is awesome. Each hangar you go to, there's a shield generator you need to destroy, and each hangar that you go into, there are more droids in each one because they've had more time to set up. And so each hangar is a really good progression in the enemy difficulty until you get in the final hangar, and they're just everywhere. It's incredibly chaotic, taxing, intense. You have to res teammates as you command them to hack a terminal in the back, and also just like hope the droids don't overwhelm you. Oh, they also have spawners, so they'll just keep coming for you. Only, unlike most terminals, which take 10 seconds, this one takes a full minute, which doesn't seem very long, but you're getting shot at. Anyway, after the terminal unlocks and the lift begins its slow rise up, it reveals a Republic walker, and you get to operate it. Well, you could command a squad mate to do it, but do you really want to do that? And so, in a final moment, you get to blow up all the droids in the hangar and destroy the shield generator, and you're done. Not really, though, because then the capital ship starts shooting you. So in the actual final act, you and the boys have to make a mad dash for a control room, fighting sleuths of droids to get there. And once you do, it's revealed there are 3 terminals that need to be sliced in order for your ship's turrets to open fire. Naturally, you'll want to leave that to your squad mates while you defend them for the final assault. I think this final part isn't nearly as strong in its catharsis as the tank turret set piece. However, it brings back a lot of the gameplay of the earlier prosecutor sections. You're forced to be the only one in combat again without your squad, but this time it's because you and a unit are working together towards a larger goal. Your cannons roar to life, and the capital ship is decimated. The prosecutor does such a good job in taking and returning power back to the player in a perfectly paced gameplay experience. Originally, this video was just about that act because of how I wanted to dissect the smart decisions done by the developers to create this section. But there's still one more section where you're separated from the squad. And I think it's important to talk about when we're talking about smart gameplay decisions in Republic Commando. It is, however, the very last section of the game. Spoilers for the end of Republic Commando. You and the team are dispatched to Kashyyyk. Your job is to aid the Wookiees before the arrival of the main army. You're sneaking through the jungle doing saboteur work, and you're helping the Wookiees rebel against the droids. And the final part of this act is, admittedly, a pretty boring turret section, but it forces you to leave a squad mate at each turret in order for each one of you to be able to blow up the capital ship that is currently ravaging the Wookiee planet. So you gradually lose more and more of your offensive force as you go on, because all of you are working together to blow up this big ship. And then you do it. You blow up the ship. The game's over. You defeated the big bad guy. It's not really satisfying. It's not like Ship was like the guy that killed your parents or whatever, you know? It's not really like narratively fulfilling, but the game is over. And I think the reason that they do that is because, well, the game doesn't want to give you a satisfying ending. And if you don't believe me, well, just watch.
Regroup at 3/8 position for exfil.
Boss, I've got a problem here.
Sev, where are you?
Multiple hostiles.
Lost his signal, boss.
We'll find it again, damn it. Squad, regroup. We're going after Sev.
Negative 3/8. New orders came through from the Jedi generals. Clear the area. Evac now.
I think there's something really great when games make an intentional choice to deny the player satisfaction, especially at the end of a game. Because you can execute any plan flawlessly and be a squad that prioritizes teamwork above all else, but that's not a guarantee that everyone will survive. The omission of Sev's icon in the final cutscene feels really impactful after staring at that bottom left corner of the screen for so long. I think it also reinforces the idea that while you as a squad value each other, the command structure you serve just sees you as another tool to be used for their agenda. That's a powerful message to leave the player, especially in a Star Wars squad shooter. And yes, freeing enslaved people is objectively a good action, but it's not like the Republic and subsequent Empire actually cared about Wookiee emancipation. Man, if only the game featured some character from the expanded universe of Star Wars to nail home the idea that the Republic, while preaching just morals, was actually more willing to ignore those morals in order to accomplish a political agenda.
All Republic forces, establish forward command in Kajiro.
Is that really who I think it is?
Rendezvous with Delta Squad. We must. Upon